So, hey guys, welcome back to Accelerated Investor. Hey, it's your host, Josh Cantwell. And today I have a great interview with a very active commercial broker who actually has 4 active listings that you can buy. His name is Ruben Goldbaum. He owns his own brokerage. It's actually an owner-based brokerage, which I love. You guys know brokerages like the big boys, the Cushmans, the Newmarks, the CBREs, the Marcus & Millichaps. Those are huge corporations. A lot of times, billion-dollar companies. Ruben actually started his own commercial brokerage, and he focuses on networking with owners. Okay, so here's some of the things you're going to learn in this interview for Ruben. Number one, you're going to hear about Ruben, why he built an owner-based real estate brokerage. Number two, you're going to hear why he felt it was so important to work in the industry before he became a broker. He worked as a 1031 intermediary, getting a W-2 income, and that led him into the business. Number three, I love his quote. He said, when you're working and networking with other people, don't look up and don't look down. Everybody is on the same footing. So you'll hear about that story. Number four, why Ruben thinks you should just take a leap of faith and get in the business. And also number five, you're going to hear about 6 specific tools that Ruben uses when he's evaluating a new market. You're also going to hear about 4 specific deals that Ruben actually has for sale right now in the Houston market, the Louisiana market, the Memphis market, and we'll give out his information if you want to make offers on his listings. So I think you're going to enjoy this interview on Accelerated Investor with a very active commercial broker, Ruben Goldbaum. Here we go.
Welcome to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you're looking to retire early with forever passive income, you're in the right place. This podcast is the go-to destination for real estate investors, both active and passive, and multifamily apartment investors, both new, intermediate, and advanced. Now, sit back, listen, learn, and accelerate your business, your life, and your investing with the Accelerated Investor Podcast.
So, hey guys, welcome back. I'm so excited to be interviewing Ruben today. Ruben, thanks so much for joining me on Accelerated Investor. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Josh. It's really exciting to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to have you on, man. So listen, I know you're a very active broker. You've worked with a lot of 1031 exchange money, a lot of high net worth. Tell me a little bit about what you're up to right now. Like, what are some things that are on your plate, some projects that you're excited about in today's market?
So right now, I'm currently working on, I have 2 deals in Houston. I have a deal in Memphis, and I have a deal in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Those are 4 deals that I have active. But I'm more specifically focused on dealing with the scaredness of how everyone is so terrified about the rising interest rates. So it's more, speaking to investors every day, finding out what their thoughts are, how they're dealing with it, how their new approach to underwriting may or may not be, and just trying to get a better handle on everything. But those 4 deals, let's talk about those for a second. Sure. I have 1 small deal in Houston, 120 units. That's a nice value add play. It's going to need a bridge loan on it. That's going to be a nice little property. We're going to get that sold hopefully pretty soon. We have a three pack also between Pasadena and Houston. 2 in Pasadena, 1 in Houston. A total of a little under 150 units. Also a bridge, but that would be more just updating the units, bringing the units to market rent. And then I have something in, like I mentioned, in Louisiana. That's going to be a heavy lift. We're talking about a much bigger property, about 330 units, 70s vintage, 50% occupied. Some problems with the current ownership. They're not doing a great job. We actually, funnily enough, I had that property a year ago, and we brought them a great offer, and they did not want to sell it. They said, we'll do it ourselves. We'll do it ourselves. They pumped in, since then, $700,000 of CapEx, and they're worse off, if you can imagine. I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal. So now they call me again, and they're like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. So I have a few things that we're working on. I'm so excited, and the market is so tight right now. And when you have a deal, you know that people are going to be
What about
interested
the one in
and ready to
Memphis?
jump.
That's Memphis, right?
Oh, and the Memphis one, yeah, I apologize. I forgot about that one. That one is really exciting because you're going in at a very high cap rate. You're talking going in at about a 5.5, almost 5.75 cap for a fully produced cash flowing, beautiful property um, in a nice area, not far from the airport. I mean, it's a cool play. So we've gotten a few offers on that, and make sure to get that done very soon.
Fantastic. I love it. So, so it's interesting when I talk to a broker who reps and sells properties in multiple locations, like Louisiana, Houston, Memphis. They're not really all that close to each other.
Nope.
A lot of the brokers that I work with in Ohio, like they're based in primarily Ohio. They might go to Indiana. They might go to Detroit. They might go to Pittsburgh, but they've got a big footprint in Ohio. I know you've built your business really rapidly in the last couple of years. Tell me about the growth. Like, how has that happened? How have you built it?
So, I mean, it's a great question because most brokers, like you said, are in one specific area. They have their territories. Even in brokerages, larger brokerages, they have territories. I'm a little different. I'm owner based. So
Easy.
if I know an owner, if he can own 5 properties, one can be in California, one can be in New York, I'll still work with that owner. So it's not about the area, it's about the owner, which is relatively unique. And as we grow, it's going to become it might become a problem. When you bring in more agents and they want territories, but hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. I'm sure we'll find a way to figure it out. Our growth, I mean, it was amazing. I was working in 1031 exchanges. I was working for a company called Riverside 1031. I was a qualified intermediary. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, Josh.
Sure, you bet.
But
Why don't you
yeah,
explain it for our audience?
so a qualified intermediary, in order to facilitate a 1031 exchange, the money needs to go to an intermediary. That's called a qualified intermediary. And they're the one who handled that transaction. While I was there, I was doing sales for that company. And while I was there, I started getting out there and I was noticing how all the brokers look at 1031 buyers and they're like, they salivate. They're so excited. We're gonna mess this guy over because he has so much money that he needs to deploy, and we're gonna get the most. We're gonna squeeze every last ounce out of the guy. And I was like, wow, it's pretty crazy. I mean, so much so there's a massive a huge industry out there called triple net properties and DSTs, which is Delaware Statutory Trust, which are there specifically to help 1031 investors. Don't get me wrong, not everybody is doing the wrong thing, but it is a way of getting 1031 investors to put their money in a property which will not produce as much as they really should be producing. 6% returns, 5% returns. I mean, it's very nice, but it's not what active 1031 investors would like to do. People that are going from property to property and want to build their portfolio. So I saw a niche at a market for a person who will bring those 1031 buyers as the best possible buyers. The same way you can have a REIT that has billions and billions of dollars backing them. They'll never back out of a contract. A 1031 buyer is almost the same in that they have such strength of buyership, if that's a word. They come in and they're going to close. Yeah, it's a word. They're going to close. They come in and they're strong and they have a timeline and they have the money backing them. And you could get a letter from the QI stating that they have X amount of money, and they're going to do it. So I felt so strongly there was a position to bring those buyers to the table and get those properties for the also. Very often they would know what they want. They know we want in this area, we want X amount of units for with X amount of leverage, and we're willing to do X, Y, Z. And going in, that gives you so much more because they're a real buyer. You're not just bringing anything to the table and listing it and hoping that people will throw some money at it. You're bringing something very specific, and you're bringing this niche with these 1031 buyers or high net worth buyers or things that strong buyers. The point is, very strong buyers should be recognized as strong buyers. So that's how we grew.
And so that became so how does somebody find or brand themselves to find these 1031 buyers? Like, how did you put yourself out there and market yourself? As I know you had a background in it because you worked at a QI, you worked at Riverside, and there's a big QI, lots of salespeople, and they're doing lots of it. So you had a niche in it. But how did you start your brokerage and brand yourself as that? I'm that guy. If you're a high net worth, if you're a 1031, work with me because fill in the blank. Like, why would people want to work with you? And it kind of explained it, because you felt like people were getting kind of screwed because they're just pushing properties and overpricing them. But what was the branding for you to make you the expert in that area?
Right. That's another great question. I actually brokered a deal while I was at Riverside, and that's how my eyes opened up to brokerages as well. I brokered a deal, and my initial reaction when I got the commission was like, "Oh, this is cool. I like this. This is fun." But then, but then you realize what brokering entails and what it's involved in and how it is. And I had so many relationships in the 1031 world. I was there for a couple of years. I had gone to all the conferences, to ICSC and to IMN and all the big conferences, and I started building a network. And
Mhm.
I speak about this on LinkedIn. I'm relatively active on LinkedIn, and I speak about this a lot. Where your network is so key. Everyone you know could turn into your next client. People knew me as the 1031 guy. Once they started reaching out to me as 1031 guy, I was able to start bringing that into the other aspect of my business, which is, okay, I know you're in a 1031. What are you looking for? This is
Mhm.
what I do for a living. What do you need something, or have you already identified which properties you're planning on doing? So it was growth in steps. It really was. I remember when I started at Riverside. I didn't know what a cap rate was. I didn't know what NOI was. I didn't know anything. And as time went on, you learn and you learn and you learn and you learn. And it took a couple of years. And I'm still no major real estate expert, but now I can sit in a room and sit on a podcast and speak to Josh Cantwell and know exactly what I'm talking about. Um,
Nice.
and and that's what you're doing. You gotta start somewhere, pick yourself up, and brand yourself and network with the people that you speak to daily.
Yeah. And I think there's a great piece of advice in there, Ruben, that for so many people and maybe some listeners of this show that want to get into commercial real estate, want to get into multifamily, but don't know how to do it. There's so many different ways to get in. There's so many different places you can sit on the bus and be a GP and be an owner or be an LP. And for a lot of people, it might be working in the industry with a W-2 job or earning commission and not necessarily being an owner yet, but doing stuff in the business, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I got into getting really good at raising money because when I was in my early 20s, I'm now 45 years old, 20 years ago, I got into financial planning. I didn't know that that would help me be really good at raising capital and talking to investors. So I got into the capital game. So some people, maybe you're good at raising capital and you need to get into the capital game to become an owner. Maybe for some of you, need to be working at a 1031 exchange, intermediary to get around owners. Maybe some of you need to work for a property management company,
Yes.
earning commission to get to know property owners. Maybe some of you need to go work for a lawyer and be a legal aid or something like that, who's working in the commercial space. There's a lot of ways to get in the business without just saying, I got to go buy my first 150 unit. That's $10 million property. And you're like, oh God, how am I going to do that? How am I going to sponsor the loan? How am I going to raise the money? You don't know what you're doing. So how do you get in the game? How do you get in the industry and not necessarily have to be an owner right away, right? I sort of did that by default. Ruben sort of did that by default. I think it's a great way to get in the industry with relatively little risk. So, I mean, Ruben, just what are your thoughts on that for anybody who might be listening that wants to do what we're doing, but kind of looks at it as, wow, that's just such a big leap for them.
It's the best thing you can do. It's honestly, it's easy. When I started out, I was pretty newly married. I had no kids. My expenses were pretty low. I took a W-2 job working, like I said, at Riverside, and I still have a great relationship with them. I still send them clients for their 1031s. And you know, it was so easy because you use that as a stepping stone and you build what you are and you become more of someone. You gain confidence in any industry. I have so many friends that started out as property managers making 50 grand, $55,000, managing 300, 400 units. And
Amazing.
then they go and they buy their first, even a triplex or even their small 40 unit property that they partner up with their old boss if they still maintain a good relationship with them. Things like that, and you can grow. You can become a GP, or you can continue your W-2 job, get better at it, and then invest it with people like you and as an LP and earn and gain all the benefits of real estate like that as well.
Perfect stuff. Ruben, I know you're a very active broker right now, and you mentioned that you work with a lot of 1031 buyers, but you also have these 4 active listings right now. So if somebody wanted to like talk to you about these deals that you have, obviously I will put your information in the show notes. Why don't you just give us your contact information right now in case there's a listener that wants to reach out to you about these deals in Memphis and Louisiana and Houston?
So thank you, appreciate that.
Sure.
My very easy way to contact me is just via email or my cell. I happily give out my cell phone to everybody, 347-471-3669. or my email is Ruben, Reuben, at cgcommercialrealty.com. CG is myself and my partner. His name is Jack Cisner. So C for Cisner, G for Goldbaum, commercialrealty.com. Pretty long, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Once you email me once, it's in there. So, you never forget it. And then on LinkedIn, you can follow me on
LinkedIn. Now that you're really focused on that 1031 buyer.
Yeah.
Like, are you still looking for those kind of clients to be repping them and be like a buyer's rep, or
No question.
or relationships with them when they're 1031ing into a deal? And you said you're more owner based. You're making relationships with owners, and they could be a buyer. Eventually, they're going to be a seller. Help me understand that piece of it. Like, what's your kind of preferred side of the deal you're on, or do you just kind of prefer to work with the owner, kind of double end it? And how does that come together?
It's all the above. I prefer, honestly, wherever I can get into a deal, wherever I'm going to transact, whether it's with the seller as the owner or whether it's with a new buyer. I find that when you have the strongest buyers, when they are closers, and that they have the equity and the know-how to do a deal, I find that you'll find a deal to give to them.
Mhm.
So I love those buyers. If a guy calls me and he says, Ruben, I'm exiting this such and such a deal. I'm selling a strip center in Kentucky, and I'm looking to get into multifamily, and I have the money lined up, and I need to close in a certain amount of time, and I'm looking in this area. So then you sit down, you go on CoStar, you go on Reonomy, and you start making phone calls, and they come. People are very, very receptive. It's one thing I love about the real estate industry is that people are receptive. That people are always interested in hearing what you have to say, what you're bringing to the table, as long as you're respectful and you're not out of nowhere and you're not disrespectful in your cold call or in your cold email. Be creative, be nice, be friendly. We'll talk about that in a minute. How people can sometimes get nasty and it's so foolish. Just stay in the relationship. Everything is relationship based. I mean, and as you build your relationship, it could be an owner, it could become a seller, it could become a buyer. And whoever it is, if a guy is in the 1031, please give me a call. I'd love to work with you. If a guy's looking to sell his property to a 1031 buyer, please give me a call. I'd love to work with you. That's how typically I like working. I like working with 1031 investors. But like I said, anybody who's a very verified closer is somebody who I enjoy working with.
Yeah, no doubt.
Are you ready to automate and explode your real estate investing? We're searching for extremely motivated individuals who are sick and tired of wasting time and want to finally see real results from their real estate investing business. We're searching for investors looking to get to the next level and become a bigger, better version of themselves while being a more successful real estate investing entrepreneur. Apply for mentoring and coaching at joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast. That's joshcantwellcoaching.com/podcast.
Ruben, is there a typical deal if somebody's exiting a 1031 and from whatever asset class it is, and they want to move that money into multifamily? Is there a typical structure in multifamily that you feel works best for 1031 dollars? Is it more of a cash flow play where it's cash flowing off the rip and it's already kind of stabilized? Is it more of a deep, heavy value add? Based on your experience, is there a type of deal where you think those 1031 dollars usually makes the most sense if somebody wants to, take a $5 million or a $2 million or a $10 million 1031 and plunk it down somewhere? What are your thoughts on structure? What do you think from your experience is kind of the best route for them to go?
So here's where I think I might be a little bit different than most people who would answer that question. Most people would answer that question would say, well, the 1031 guy just wants to park his money. He wants to save the taxes. I disagree. I think the 1031 guy is the same as any other buyer. He's just stronger. So whether he wants to do a value add play, whether he wants to do cash flow, whether he wants a trophy asset, whatever it might be, I think the world's his oyster. Go crazy, man. You are the best buyer. You are a 1031 buyer. You're the best freaking buyer there is. The sellers would be lucky to have you. Because the only thing ultimately that the sellers care about, you told me you just sold a lot of properties last year. Mm-hmm. The only thing that sellers care about is certainty of closing. That's the number one thing they care about. 100%. I mean, I just got this deal I mentioned about a three pack in Houston. It's what just happened a week before closing. The buyers backed out, and the seller is fuming. He's furious. I mean, he's
over, remarket the property, take
the worst
tours, wait 90 days, 60 days at best, 90 days with an extension. Yeah,
exactly. It's the worst. So they care about closing. When you have a 1031 buyer, just just close, baby. That's it. Just freaking close.
I love,
So,
I love it.
that's the way I look at it.
That's your niche now. You're working with people, high net worth, certainty of closing, very important. Building your new brokerage under your brand and with your direction, owner based. I love it. It wasn't always this way, right? You were at a 1031. You said you were a W-2, and you kind of did that first deal you started to talk about. But tell me about the early days. What was it like when you thought, this 1031, this W-2 maybe isn't for me as much as I thought. I want to do my own thing. I want to be an entrepreneur, build my own company. And then normally there's some early challenges. I only bring that up because I know full well. I've done it many times and I know what the early challenges are like. What were the early challenges like for you?
Well, I just remember my wife was expecting our second kid. And I came home from work one day and I said, honey, we have to have a talk. And she said, well, what do you want to talk about? Well, I said, well, I think it's time to go. And she said, what? Are you crazy? We're about to have our second kid. We don't have a house yet. Like, what are we doing? You can't just take such a leap. I said, I don't know what to tell you, but I need to start doing something of my own. And I walked out of that job and I had only a few $1,000s in the bank account. And I didn't really know what I was going to do because, like I said, even though I knew some stuff, and I didn't really know. Yeah. And I mean, I just remember that first week where I went to the office and I had to pay my own bill for the office. Then I had to pay my own bill for my G Suite. Then I had to pay my own bill for my. And I was like, oh my God, I paid for sales training. And I'm like, I see my bank account dwindling. And I'm like, oh, geez, what did I get myself into? And thank God, you push and you push. And I got lucky enough to get one opportunity, and that led to another and to another. But it was so scary. That fear. I told my wife, I said, 6 months. I need 6 months. If I don't make any money in 6 months, I'll go get a new job. But I need 6 months. And I think that was a good move because it gave me a little bit of a buffer. I had enough money in the bank account where I was paying my bills. I wasn't gonna become homeless.
To that deadline, right?
She was counting down.
182 days, not a day more.
Oh my God. So maybe the 6 months was in my head for 1031, because that's also one of the timelines. It could be that was in my head.
Right.
But it was a scary time, but it was also exciting because, you walk out that first day and there's no load. I'll never forget getting a call from somebody I was working with at like Friday afternoon, like 7:15. I was already gone for the day. And I had to go and take care of like a wire or something. And I was so annoyed about it. I'm like, it's not my job. Give it to somebody else. And that gave me the impetus. Go do what you want. Live your life. Don't be stuck into this box. And it's been a good ride. And hopefully it will continue.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
So what was the first big win like, right? So you go out on your own, you've got 6 months. Early challenges, bills are piling up. When did you know, probably with those first couple of wins, that you made the right decision?
So in brokerage, it's a great question. In brokerage, it's a little different than most because brokerage, you can go a year without closing a deal. Then you could go a month and close 4 deals and earn a lot of money on just 4 deals. Especially me, I'm not splitting it with anybody. It's all my commission. So it was, so the first time I got an opportunity was my partner had a friend who gave us a shot. He said, I have a property in Maryland, go sell it. Small, relatively small deal, 115 units, go sell it. And we brought him a buyer and it was exhilarating. I mean, it was literally exhilarating. When they went down and we got our first LOI, and that LOI, we held them to it. They tried retrading and we held them to it and we actually got them to close. And it was amazing. I mean, it's the best feeling in the world. You can't even imagine. It was unbelievable. It was amazing. I mean, for a few reasons. Aside from my own personal victory, but it was just the whole the adrenaline. It was exhilarating. It truly was. It was awesome.
What did you think that if you look back? What advice would you give that person that made that leap from the W-2 to entrepreneurship, the W-2 to commercial real estate? What would you look back to your younger former self and say, man, Ruben, you did this, and this, you did it right. You did it right. Like, good job, do more of that. And what would you say? Holy crap, Ruben, you totally screwed that part up. Like, don't ever do that again. Like, so if you're if you're talking to our audience or your younger self, what kind of advice, good or bad, would you take out of that experience?
So there's a couple of things I learned. I would say the two most important things that I learned were, number one, were both about people that I was going after. I had a fear as a salesperson. It's always scary. You're approaching people, you're reaching out to people, and you're like bothering them, you're annoying them throughout the day. And I realized that it's not true. They're dying to speak to you. You just have to be upfront and honest and a nice person. And they're not any better or worse than you as a person. We're all the same as far. Don't look down or look up. If a guy's not as successful as you, don't look down on him. If a guy's way more successful than you, don't look up to him. He's not any better or any worse. Nobody's any better or any worse than you. That was one thing that I would say I learned, and it took me a while to like get the confidence to make that cold call or make that call to that person and that you would never speak to, and if you would see him on the street, you'd be scared. That's one thing. Secondly, it would be just stop being so scared. Take a leap of faith. You have some faith in yourself, have some confidence, and make it happen because you can. I mean, it takes time and it takes a lot of luck and help from the one above.
Mm-hmm.
But do what you got to do. Do what you feel is best. Go with your gut sometimes because sometimes you're sitting in a W-2 as long as you can. Of course, we're not talking about a guy who's making X amount of money with X amount of expense and he can't do it. If a person is able to do it, go take the leap. If you believe in yourself, and you should. We're talented, good people. And if you're working in a job for a long time, grab it, man. Grab it by the freaking horns.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Those two things.
The other thing you mentioned earlier too was, we obviously went to a lot of conferences. You mentioned
Yes.
IMN, you mentioned other conferences that you'd been to. What do you think, in your opinion, are some good conferences today? There's kind of the old good ones that have been around forever. And then there's obviously some new up and coming type of conferences. Obviously the COVID stuff is wearing off. People are getting out, they're traveling, they're on planes again, they're going to live conferences face to face. What are some of your favorite ones to attend, and where do you think people can get the most value?
There are some unbelievable conferences. Some that I've done well at, specifically were ICSC. I did very well at. I'm as you can see in the video, I'm Orthodox Jew, so our little society of us, we also have some of our own events where not unique to us, but just our network. And those have been very good to me. But like you said, COVID has been a problem. I think it's so easy to find events. Go online. BizNow does events all the time. Commercial Observer does events all the time. Go on Eventbrite, search local real estate events. There are so many. Bigger Pockets does events. I know companies like Jake and Gino do events, and there are so many options out there. It's awesome to just go and have fun. First of all, it's fun. Second of all, you meet people that you would never, ever meet. I mean, never. And it's cool. So I can recommend a network. I love networking. Spend the money. It's not that much. I mean, ICSC, things like that are very expensive. But there are very cheap or even free events all over the place, literally all over the place. People advertise them on LinkedIn, whether you're in New York, whether you're in Houston, whether you're in California, there are events everywhere. So just make it happen.
Fantastic. Love it. And Ruben, last question. If you were starting over completely, and you had to research markets, you had to learn about a new market, you were starting over, but you had the knowledge of what you have now, and you wanted to research new markets to invest in or broker in or lend in, is there any tips of the of the trade that you use to identify markets that you like to be in? I know you said you're owner based, so you're more about the relationship, and that takes you to the market. But let's say you find a new owner, and the new owner happens to have a deal in Louisiana, and you've never been to Louisiana. What kind of things are you going to do off the rip, out of the gate, to kind of start to educate yourself about that market? Are there any certain reports that you read or places that you go, websites that you read that you kind of rely on? Because being owner based is going to take you to places that you've never been. So I'm curious how you manage that.
It's a great question. Of course, I'd go on, the typical, you go on Google Maps, you go on apartments.com, you search a little bit what's going on. But to just understand your question, to find a new market, that would be just based on my research on CoStar. I'm going after specific owners, and then I'll find out where they own. So I don't necessarily look for new markets as far as finding owners. But if I get a deal in a new market that I know nothing about, like the first time I got a deal, I just closed a deal in Houston not long ago. That was the first deal I'd done in Houston. It was in Clear Lake. I don't know if you're familiar with the area. Yeah,
This is my own-
a nice. Yeah, so it was a nice 250 unit property in Clear Lake that I just sold, and I knew nothing about it, literally nothing. So I spent some time. You go on, like I said, you go on Google Maps, you go on all those things, but then you have to sometimes spend some money, go on things like CoStar, call some people that you know who own some of the neighboring properties, make some, just get as much possible as information as you can. I mean, it's so much easier. I don't know how long you've been doing this, Josh, but I'm only in the commercial real estate world a few years.
Yeah.
25 years ago, this was impossible. You had to take,
It was nothing.
yeah, there was nothing online. Now everything's online. It's so easy. You can find tax assessments, you can find insurance quotes, you can find so many different things in order to make that underwriting so much easier. People spend hours and hours and hours and hours underwriting. I think that's foolish in a way. To get your initial view on a property shouldn't take you that long. To get your initial, I'm not saying to give an LOI, but just to see whether this is something for you or not should not take that long. And some people spend hours and hours. I find that, no, do your research. It's all online. Have a guy that spend 3-4 hours on it and knock it out. Everything's available. Google Maps, apartments.com, Rent Cafe, rent.com, CoStar, Reonomy, things like that. Just hit them hard, and you should be able to find all the information you need.
Fantastic stuff, Ruben. Listen, I love your energy, man. This has been a great interview. I appreciate that. Again, I want all of our folks to reach out to you, do deals with you, especially if they got a 1031 exchange that they're working on. You seem like just a fantastic and fun person to be around. So give us your contact information again. You mentioned you're on LinkedIn as well. Where are some places that people can reach out to you?
That's awesome. Okay, yeah, sure. You can follow me on LinkedIn, like I said, Ruben Goldbaum, and you can send me a text, give me a call at 347-471-3669. And looking forward to working with everybody. Oh, my email is ruben@cgcommercialrealty.com. Listen, anybody who's willing to work with me, I do have the energy. I love working in this. It's fun. It's enjoyable. And also, you learn a lot every single day. So it's been a fun ride. And thank you so much for having me, Josh. I mean, this was awesome. So I really enjoyed it.
Thanks so much for joining us today on Accelerated Investor.
Thanks, man. I'll speak to you.
So there you have it, guys. Listen, I love bringing resources and tools and information to you that you can use in your own practice and in your own business. Ruben and I obviously mentioned numerous tools in that interview that you can use for research, also different events that you can go to. Obviously, Ruben's an active broker with real deal flow that you can go offer on right now. So his contact information is in the show notes. And look, guys, I don't like just talking about this stuff. I love doing deals. If you want to do more deals and you want to be more involved and have a great group, a great ecosystem that you can share with, joint venture with, raise capital, close properties, consider applying for our coaching and mastermind and partnering program. It's called Forever Passive Income, and you can apply at joshcantwellcoaching.com. Right now, we've got about 75 to 80 active members, people who are very, intermediate to advanced investors that own portfolios, or very active, advanced residential investors leaping into multifamily. It's a fantastic group. I love to run it, and I would love to have you apply and see if you could be considered. Check it out at joshcantwellcoaching.com. We'll see you next time. Take care.
You were just listening to the Accelerated Investor Podcast with Josh Cantwell. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something new, help us build the AI community by leaving a review and 5-star rating on our iTunes podcast channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. To see passive investing opportunities, visit freelandventures.com/passive. To start your journey toward the lifestyle you've always dreamed of with multifamily apartments, apply for one-on-one coaching with Josh at www.joshcantwellcoaching.com.